We'll start in 2 minutes.
Wait, I will not be here for the next one in May. Unless you change the date, but,
We'll have to talk about that.
okay. Just thought I'd let you know.
Okay, thanks. You expect me to remember that?
No, but I told her, and I expect her to remember.
The highly organized people here would remember that.
Exactly, which is why I told them.
Highly organized. Who are they?
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. First on the agenda, our first item is the agenda. I'll accept a motion to adopt the agenda for today's meeting. Michelle, jump to the forefront. Michelle moves to adopt the agenda for today's meeting. All those in favor? Carried. Minutes for the March 14th, 2023 meeting. Discussion. Dan moves approval of the March 14th, 2023 minutes as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So first today, sir, are you representing Jurassic Solar? No. No? Okay.
Yes, I am.
She's live.
Oh, you're live. Okay.
Yes, hi.
Hi there.
We do have Alice from Jurassic Solar that is on Zoom.
Okay. So Alice, do you have all your participants on at this point in time?
Not yet. I'm expecting 2 others, and I believe they'll be jumping on around 10:15. But if Jurassic is the first one up, we can get started.
We can do some other housekeeping, and then we'll allow you time for your representatives to join. So.
Sure, appreciate that.
Okay, we'll talk about the development applications for viewing. Any discussion regarding those? Okay, let's move on to, we don't need a motion for those. No, no. Let's do the assistant planner's report. Any discussion? Aaron, do you have anything to add to your report, or any points of discussion? Sorry, Becky. Becky, I apologize.
Sorry. No, it's my last report, so fire away if you want.
Oh, well, let's take this one. Could be here for a while.
I do have a question, I just gotta find it. Oh, that's what. The Hilda Wind project for excessive speeds, has anything happened with that?
The last I heard, and Aaron might have further comment, but I believe the RCMP was out and going to be monitoring that like regularly, and we did make sure Anna, our bylaw officer, was aware of what was going on, and she said that there was ongoing checking. I guess they were out in the area quite a bit, so they were aware.
Has there been any more complaints since the day I phoned you?
That I know of, that I've.
Concerned citizens?
Yeah. Let's
The hills have eyes.
As a follow-up to, I believe Aaron forwarded on some contact information for the Hilda construction company to the complainant as well. So they may be dealing with things internally also.
Through the chair, yeah, we provided information to the various companies around there to provide an update or a warning to staff during their safety meetings regarding excessive speed.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Kind of let her off this easy for the last one.
Okay, well, I'll ask another one, just because.
Thank you. Go ahead.
No, I won't. Just about the Medicine substation, what's going on with that?
So yeah, since the hearing, Kim and I attended and participated in the hearing. We haven't heard what the outcome of that is yet. So, and I think I found on AUC they can take up to 90 days, I think, to make a decision. So we have yet to hear anything any more about it.
Well, I was just asking another question, just
Typically, the AUC does take their full 90 days. Anything else?
What about the flooding out there?
Flooding?
Yeah. Any more information on the flooding that happened out there for the roads from the,
Just over the weekend, you mean?
it was 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
it was a while ago. It was on one of the roads that went into the solar, or the wind projects. And it was flooding because of something they did. Hilda.
Hilda, sorry.
I didn't hear anything about that. Maybe Kim can comment on it, no?
Oh, did it? Okay. Well, we tried. You didn't know anything about it, so.
Take it so far to stump me on it.
But through the chair, they're doing a 1.5 cubic meter release out of Murray Lake today. So that'll go down 7 persons. And that's a controlled release. So just because they've got some localized flooding in 40 Mile up by Murray Lake. And so that's all the water coming north from the hills.
So all those flood zone properties will be, we'll be dealing with them again, maybe? That's not that much though, is it? Yeah.
Not if they control it. It's not going to reach her, is it? Sorry.
Okay, any more discussion regarding the planner's report? It's up to motion to Amanda? Who? Amanda? Did you move it?
Yeah,
I thought I saw your hand. Amanda moves approval of the planner's report as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Land use amendments. Any discussion regarding the land use amendments? Now, we do need a motion to accept the land use amendments. We don't? I'm just new at this job. It's just, yeah, it's just a return to work test for you. I knew, I'm just testing you. Okay, no discussions regarding that? The Creel one? What about it?
It's against the IDP.
Yeah, I know, but it's makes sense, that one, doesn't it? Well,
Yeah.
how long is that well, it does make sense, because the rest of it's already subdivided, or the west part,
To the IDP, it's not allowed.
the subdivision of it. How are we doing with the IDP right now?
Not very good. It's,
Any status update?
the ICF has changed over, and now that the mayor of Medicine Hat has joined the ICF, moved one person off of it, so maybe we'll get closer to it. But at the last ICF meeting, we asked for the IDP to be changed in May of last year, and the city sent out a document and plans that they would get to it in 2024. So that didn't go over very well at the last ICF meeting. So it was, we'll find out this month. The city said they'd get back to us and see if there's going to be an earlier date on looking at changing that. So, but the way it sits right now is 2024. Is there? Well,
The county has no opt-out provision?
out of IDP,
Right, if it gets to that.
we have. Do you know what they are?
Yeah, so the provision within the IDP is that it takes all 3 municipalities to rescind that bylaw. So the town, the city, and the county would all have to be in agreement.
That's handy.
Basically, the town told us at the last meeting that they didn't care, it had nothing to do with them, so it was between the city and us to get it straightened out. So, we're working on it, we're chiseling away at it, but it's a very slow process.
Okay.
It's almost like the dump.
So that land use change to country, or to highway commercial, right? Or is it light industrial? What-
For which one?
For Creel? That was the Kip Weiss land?
That's changing to country residential.
Yeah, so the application for Creel is a proposed land use change to country residential district. And then the property along Township Road 120 for Kip Weiss is proposed to be highway commercial.
Right, okay. So I had the two confused. So,
Mr. Chairman, it appears that we do have the 3 representatives for Jurassic Solar online.
perfect. Okay, so let's move on then to Jurassic Solar. So this is development application, right? Development application 2376. Aaron, would you like to go through this, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal is for a solar facility located at the northwest 18-20-10 west of the 4th. The property size is 160 acres and the zoning of the site is A2 General Agriculture. Jurassic Solar LP is requesting approval from the MPC to construct and operate a solar facility. In Cypress County, the project will be situated in 1/4 section, which I mentioned earlier. The remainder of the project, 1,110 acres, give or take, will be constructed in special area number 2 north of Cypress County and a portion in Newell County. The construction of a Raptor 1080S substation, a battery storage facility, as well as a laydown yard on this 1/4 section will be approved by a separate development permit. The proposed location is in the extreme northwest corner of Cypress County, approximately 54 kilometers northwest of the hamlet of Suffield and 3.3 kilometers northwest of Highway 544. The capacity of this solar project is 220 megawatts and will include a battery energy storage system, a BESS, of up to 80 megawatts. The BESS will be located in Cypress County. A new transmission line will be erected in special area number 2 north of Cypress County for transmitting power. The solar panels will have an anti-reflective coating as per the AUC approval. Jurassic Solar is required to prepare a conservation and reclamation plan, which identifies the resources needed to reclaim materials being used in the project and to return the land to its previous state. The reclamation plan is required by section 12.21.6 of the land use bylaw. Jurassic Solar received approval from the AUC on November 16th, 2022. So basically, glare has been addressed as per the AUC. A noise impact assessment was also produced. And the AUC concluded that the project would operate in compliance within the AUC Rule 012 requirements. And an emergency response plan was submitted to emergency services. Access to the site will primarily come through special area number 2. One new approach access point is proposed off of Range Road 110, which would come in down by the county. Under Land Use Bylaw 2022/09, solar energy commercial use is considered a Class 2 discretionary use, which is why we're bringing it to MPC for recommendation. The proposed solar energy use complies with all sections in 12.21 of the Land Use Bylaw, and the proposed development permit is consistent with the AUC approval of November 16, 2022. The proposal is compliant with the Municipal Development Plan, which basically states that renewable energy plays a strong and important role in our diversified economy. As the county continues to grow, it is committed to supporting appropriate renewable energy development while ensuring the compatibility among human settlements and the environment is maintained. Alberta Transportation submitted comments, basically is to ensure that the ALSA plan is followed, which it is. Cypress County Fire Services, they recommended that during the construction of this project, care be taken to ensure that fires don't start. There's been previous issues with different developments where, say, a vehicle or something will accidentally create a fire. So the county fire services recommended that there be water on site at all times during construction to put out any grass fires if they happen. And Cypress County Public Works, the applicant will need to enter into an approach permit and enter into a road use agreement for construction and operations of the solar project. And Public Works has also indicated that they would like to have more information regarding access. Development officer's recommendation, we recommended approval of this development permit. Basically, it meets the provincial AUC requirements. The application is pretty much the same as the AUC approval. Let's see, I'm just looking for some. Okay, all solar panels should be 40 meters from the center of all county roads. They must follow other minimum setback requirements in the current land use bylaw. Upon decommissioning of this project, a copy of the reclamation certificate is to be submitted to the development officer. We're requesting a stormwater management plan. Developer is required to submit a road accommodation plan. Plan is to be submitted to Cypress County Public Works prior to the commencement. The developer should also enter into a road use agreement with Cypress County. Fire, as I mentioned before, requested that a water tank for fire suppression to remain on the site at all times during the construction of the project, obviously for fighting fires. And let's see if we have any maps or photos of this site. So, yeah, this quarter section in the county's at the very extreme northwest corner of the county. So yeah, if you look really closely, it's that little blue square. And that's a site plan of the site. So the blue area is solar panels. The brown lines are access ways coming in from the special area to the north. And there's one emergency access over to the west. That's circled in yellow. And future PDPs will be taken for the BESS and the laydown yard and another structure, I do believe. So yeah, the substation, I should say. I forgot about that one. So yeah. So that basically, that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman. And no, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Aaron. Would a representative for the applicant like to speak to this application at this time?
Nothing further to add there. Thanks for your time here. I will just note that the rest of the development is in special areas. None of it is in Newell County, so it's just the 1/4 section in Cypress and the rest in special areas.
Okay, thank you. I'll open the floor to discussion, questions. I'd like to, my question is, should we flush that fire suppression, just saying more than a tank be on site? Should it say a fully charged tank or a fire suppression unit on site, or what have we done? Have we done anything in the past that sets precedence for using that terminology, or should we do something different?
I think in the past without looking, I'm just going from memory, but I think we've just said that fire suppression be on site during construction. I don't think we've specified any further than that.
And through the chair, the emergency response plan, that's a copy of it's going to be resubmitted to emergency services. We'll also have details regarding the on-site firefighting capabilities during construction.
Okay,
Thank you.
good. Dan?
Okay, I don't have a problem with us going ahead. I just like to see us add in one more, number 16. And this is just because we've seen this around. So if it's not producing for a 6-month period, reclamation would start and return it back to agriculture. That way, if it's not working and it's not being used, the land starts to come back instead of, and nothing against this company here, but we do have one out there that we're seeing quite a mess with, and it's being left alone. And it's changed hands afterwards. So basically, this isn't for the company that's applying right now, but it's to be on record for the next person that owns it. So we have something to go back on. So again, I'm not picking on you guys. I'd like to see that put in for number 16. I'll make the motion.
So we should flesh that condition out.
Okay.
Do we want discussion, would the applicant like to put input into this before we put together this condition?
Yeah, it's Scott Perry here. Thanks first and foremost for hearing our development permit today on Jurassic in Cypress County. I just wanted to make sure I understand and maybe clarify the purpose of that number 16, which I agree, like if a project is sitting idle following its commissioning, I have no issue with having a timeline set to reclamation of the facility. I guess 2 points is in number 16, would we say following the commissioning and so a commercial operation date, that's when the clock would start, and if the project were idle for a period of time in that following that COD date is when the reclamation would kick in?
Yeah, that would make sense.
And I completely agree with that. I just want to make sure that we don't unnecessarily capture a couple of events that I've seen in the past of where you have a force majeure event where the facility is offline for a period of time, pending a substation issue, and some of those lead times are in the 18 to 24 month range where you get the facility back online. And I wouldn't want to see a reclamation clause be captured because, 5 years in, we have a substation issue and we're trying to get that part and get it back online. So that was one thought I had. And then we very much see the value of the electrical infrastructure that we put in here, and we are really anticipating a long life of this project and participating in generating electricity in the county. Now, repowering this facility at the end of its life is something that we've thought about and are thinking about after its 35 years of operations. And I also wouldn't want to get caught in 6 months where, you know, we're 8 months away from a repowering, and the 6 month means that we have to start reclaiming the facility when our intent is to repower. So those are the two kind of flags I wanted to raise for consideration.
Yeah, no, that's understood business-wise, but there should be something in there that says that you can produce a reason why it's not being used, and that you are coming online with it, or if it's at the end of its life or something's wrong with it and you're not going to use it anymore, then that's when the reclamation would start on it.
Agreed. So maybe it's coming back to the county and discussing that and having an approach to reclamation if that's deemed necessary at the time.
I see Kayleen's scribbling over there, so I'm expecting something to forthright. No.
Through the
Darn, I
chair,
was
I was
hoping
wondering
for a
if the
draft.
applicant could just provide us with notice when there's maintenance going on, so that we'll know, okay, this part of the project shut down for X number of months, and then we'll know to observe it.
Yeah. Would you be able to accommodate that? Sorry, Wade.
I guess it depends on the definition of maintenance. So we do kind of ongoing maintenance in different windows to make sure that our combiner boxes are okay and that our panels are producing correctly. What if we were to produce, like, in the event that the facility is offline for a period of time, we will provide notice to the county and come in and be able to explain the tenure, how long that is expected to be ongoing for.
Through the chair, that sounds fair.
Okay. So do we need time to draft something up here? Do you want to pause on this one, or come back to it later in the meeting? Or how long do you think it would take to draft up a 16?
I think we could do it fairly quickly. Basically, if, from what was noted here, if the facility goes offline, the applicant will let us know. And if if a portion of the project is shut down permanently, then it'd have to be reclaimed immediately. So we could have wording something like that, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Good morning. I just wanted to chime in here for a quick second if I can. We've got some verbiage from a couple of other counties that may or may not be helpful for you guys. One of them is, should a solar collector farm discontinue producing power for a minimum of 2 consecutive years or 2 cumulative years in a 5-year period, the operator shall provide a report on the status of the solar farm to the county. I don't know if that helps or not, but that's some verbiage from another bylaw that we use.
That's
Through the chair, we could change the 2 years to 6 months. I think that would be fair.
Providing a report.
And then
Reclamation
it
needs to.
kind of continues to say that a review of the status report by MPC may result in a request for the solar farm to be decommissioned. So it kind of gives you the two pieces there, the information coming from the developer for you, and then the decision by MPC.
Gives you the opportunity to determine if it's a maintenance or part issue or just a not working issue, and then you could decide from there.
I think we should say reclamation shall commence unless the county is provided with sufficient information regarding the status of the project. That way you have the teeth to say the reclamation will begin, if not operational, within 6 months. If for some reason it goes dark for 6 months, right there it states the reclamation shall begin unless sufficient information is provided to the county to prove that it is a temporary measure or a temporary non-commission or something like that. Does that make sense, Kayleen?
It does. Aaron and I might just take a few minutes here just to make sure that we draft the condition properly, just to make sure that everyone is aware and everyone understands what that condition entails. So if we can take a quick 2-minute recess and we'll come
Okay.
back to you.
That's what we'll do. We'll take a 2-minute recess, or, well, let's make it a 5-minute recess. If we can come back earlier, we will.
But
Mr. Chairman, we've come up with condition number 16, and I'll read it out to you. The solar facility must report to Cypress County if the facility needs to be offline for a period exceeding 6 months. MPC will review the report to determine if the facility will be considered online again or whether the facility or a portion of must be remediated.
Like that. I don't know if our applicants are with us as of yet, so. Oh, there we go.
We're here.
They're back, all right. Did you folks hear that?
Yeah, we didn't think that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, it gives the county and it gives you the opportunity to communicate with the county, and I think it gives us a great point to move forward from. We're starting to see some issues out there, so that's a good thing going forward, I believe. Okay, so we don't have a motion yet as a, did you, okay, so you move it?
Yep.
Okay, so. Okay, so Dan moves approval of 23/76 with the 16 conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were presented today. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's now a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of this permit. The development permit will be advertised in Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed within 21 days of the issue, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you may contact the development officer to discuss them after today's meeting. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, guys. Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye. You too.
So next, Mr. Josh Plant, that's you, Josh. Would you take one of the chairs up front here, please, Josh? And there's a little button you can, yeah, there you go. When we ask you to speak, you can use that, please, and then everyone can hear you. Okay, so this is development application 23/79. Go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This proposal is for an attached garage located at 13121B Range Road 50. The applicant is requesting the Municipal Planning Commission consider to construct a 1,080 square foot attached garage with a proposed setback distance of 29.1 meters from the center of Range Road 50. The relaxation at 10.9 meters, which is about 36 feet, for the front setback would need to be considered by the Municipal Planning Commission. As the letter of intent indicates, the location of the proposed attached garage is requested because the front setback would be in line with existing neighboring properties with similar front setbacks. The front setbacks for structures on adjacent properties vary from 17.6 meters to 29.3 meters from the center line of Range Road 50. The applicant was asked if moving the attached structure to the side of the house to minimize the variance was possible, and the applicant indicated that there's servicing and grading issues that preclude moving the attached garage to either side of the existing house. In accordance with section 16.61 of the land use bylaw, MPC can grant a variance if the proposed variance will not impact the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels of land, and the proposed development conforms with the use prescribed for that land or building in the land use bylaw. So under land use bylaw 2022/09, under country residential district 1, the bylaw states the minimum required setback from the center line of a municipal roadway is 40 meters, which is 131 feet. The proposed setback of 29.1 meters results in a relaxation request of 10.9 meters, 35.7 feet, and that's a 27% relaxation of the bylaw requirements. This application was circulated to Cypress County Public Works, and they had no comments regarding this variance. So Development Officer's recommendation, option 1, MPC can choose to refuse the permit. Option 2, we have standard conditions here for an attached a house addition. And the one condition that would be relevant specifically to this application would be approval of the setback relaxation. I do have some photographs of the site. Okay, this map here shows the front setbacks of adjacent houses. As I mentioned before, they vary between, 17 to 29 meters. And the one that really jumps out the most is towards the top there. You have a Quonset building. That's only 7 meters away from the property line, which is about 17 meters away from the center line of the roadway. So along this road, houses tend to be a little bit closer than the 40 meters to the center line. And I did a really quick drive-by visit to the site. Oh, sorry. Where I come from, we call these drive-by shooting.
It's all right.
So this is looking north at the adjacent residence, and that house is a little bit closer than the 40 meters, as I mentioned. And next photo, looking southeast, and if you look at the side of the house here, you can see a relatively steep slope, so there would be a grading issue with moving the garage to this side of the house. And this is the front of the house where the garage is proposed to be going. And we're looking at Range Road 50, looking north. And then here, okay, we're looking at the side of the house again where the garden is. And then the next photo, yeah, this is the other side of the house. And there's a very steep slope there, so constructing the garage there would be problematic. And that's the Quonset that I was mentioning. That's very, very close to the roadway, which is a couple houses to the north. And I'm looking south down Range Road 50. And we're looking at the side yard showing the slope again. And that's it for pictures, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Plant, would you like to speak to your application at this point?
I don't think I have anything to add. She covered everything pretty good. Based on what my neighboring properties are, I think there's plenty of room where my garage won't be sticking out nearly as much as my neighboring properties, and it won't affect anybody's visual aspects. I don't have to make any adjustments to my driveway because I plan to do a drive-through portion on the garage so that we can use both sides of the driveway. I just think it would add great to our quality of life and value to my property. So,
In your years living there, how long have you been there for?
we moved there in 21,
Okay.
just recently.
Have you seen any problems with, like, for example, that Quonset being too close to the road? Has that caused any drifting or anything like that on the road, or?
No, actually, the only place we haven't had any drifting in the 2 winters we've been there, but it usually just ends up on our driveways by the trees. We do put out snow fencing on the other side of the ditch once in a while if we have a bad winter, and the neighbor on the north of me helps with that, and yeah.
So your prevailing drifting would be coming from the west to your property, not past your property, because you're on the east side of the road, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Move it, okay. Lloyd moves approval of 2379 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. Development permit has been approved, subject to meeting the conditions which were previously discussed. The county will mail you a copy of your development permit. Since this is a discretionary use, there's a 3-week appeal period that the public may appeal the issuance of the permit. The permit will be advertised in the Cypress Courier newspaper for a duration of 3 consecutive weeks. If no appeal is filed, the development permit will become valid at that time. If you have any further questions, you can discuss them with the development officer after today's meeting. Thank you. Okay, so 10:45, Benchmark Geomatics on behalf of Alta Tech Industrial Designs. Can you take one of the chairs, please? And you are, sir? Sean Stange. And are you owner of the property then, or?
Yes, I own Altitech Industrial Designs that, in fact, owns the property.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Okay, Becky, would you like to discuss this? 23 CY02?
You got it. So, like you said, subdivision 23 CY02, and this is located on Township Road 120 and Highway 3. The proposal is to subdivide a 20.3 hectare portion of agricultural land from a previously subdivided quarter section for the purposes of a consolidation into the adjacent agricultural title. The applicant was Benchmark Geomatics, and the owner of the land is Altitech Industrial Design Limited. The existing land use classification is Agricultural District 2, and previous applications were rather tough to find, but what I could find, it appears they had expired in the past. This application is intended to subdivide a 20.3 hectare or 50.2 acre portion of an agricultural title in order to consolidate it with the adjacent agricultural title to enhance the irrigation operations. The existing agricultural title is 31.3 hectares or 77.44 acres in size and is cut off from the remainder of the quarter section by Highway 3. The intent is that the proposed subdivision will be consolidated into the adjacent title located at Southwest 3211-6 west of the 4th, which is 63.1 hectares or 156.09 acres in size. The parcel subject of the subdivision contains half of an irrigation pivot. The applicant's intent is to sell the subdivided parcel to the adjacent landowner to the south, who will consolidate both portions under irrigation for the purposes of enhanced productivity. Therefore, the proposed subdivision and consolidation would allow for the existing operations to occur within one land title. The proposed parcel will not have access to Highway 3. Therefore, the consolidation will allow the proposed subdivision to gain access from Range Road 65. Access to the remnant land comes from an existing approach from Highway 3. The remnant parcel contains 2 existing residences, accessory buildings, and currently operates a business. In addition, there is a privately owned gas well within the proposed remnant land. The gas well is situated approximately 56 meters from the closest residence, and there is an abandoned gas well located on the proposed subdivided parcel. The use of the land that is subject to subdivision is to remain agricultural in nature. Therefore, land use amendment approval by Cypress County Council is not required in this instance. The proposed subdivision is outside of the Tri-Area Intermunicipal Development Plan boundary and outside of the Township Road 120 Area Structure Plan. The South Saskatchewan Regional Plan states that the agricultural industry is the #1 renewable and sustainable resource. Strategies include maintaining an agricultural land base which recognizes the value of agricultural land for sustainable growth and diversity, as well as providing an opportunity for expansion for agricultural production in the region. Section 663 of the Municipal Government Act states that a subdivision authority may not require the owner of a parcel of land that is the subject of a proposed subdivision to provide reserve land or money in place of reserve land if the land to be subdivided is to be subdivided into lots of 16 hectares or more and is to be used only for agricultural purposes. Part 2.9 Road Access of the Subdivision Regulations of the Municipal Government Act states that every proposed subdivision must provide direct access to a road or lawful means of access satisfactory to the subdivision authority to each lot that is created. Section 4.1.2 Conservation of Irrigated Farmland of the Municipal Development Plan states that the county shall protect and retain irrigated farmland for agricultural purposes to support the viability of agricultural operations and preservation of improved and productive agricultural farmland. And utility easements may be required between the proposed parcel and the remainder of the agricultural title. So we did circulate the application, and Cypress County Finances replied that there are no local improvements associated with this parcel. Cypress County Public Works replied that, as stated, there will be no access off of Highway 3. The proposed subdivision will have direct access from Range Road 65 if consolidated with the adjacent parcel. Apex Utilities replied that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. They wish to advise that any relocation of existing facilities will be at the expense of the developer, and payment contributions required for new gas facilities will be the responsibility of the developer. Fortis Alberta replied that they are the distribution wire service provider for the area and that no easement is required. TELUS replied that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. City of Medicine Hat Electrical Distribution replied that they have no concerns as the proposed parcel is outside of their service area. St. Mary's River Irrigation District replied that they have no objection provided the proposed subdivision is consolidated with the adjacent agricultural title located within the Southwest 3211 6 west of the 4th. However, the remainder of the parcel will be classified as dry. If they wish to use non-potable water provided from the district, they will be required to enter into either a household purposes agreement with the district or a rural use agreement with the district for parcels 5 to 20 acres requiring more than 1 acre foot and up to 5 acre feet annually. Equus replied that they have no objection to the proposed subdivision. Equus currently provides electrical services to the Northwest 3211 6 west of the 4th and will need to maintain their existing right-of-way. And Alberta Transportation replied that the requirements of Section 18 are not met. The department anticipates minimal impact on the highway from this proposal. Pursuant to Section 21 of the regulation, Alberta Transportation grants approval for the subdivision authority to vary the requirements of Section 18 of the regulation. The requirements of Section 19 are not met. There is no direct access to the highway, and there is sufficient local road access to the subdivision and adjacent lands. Pursuant to Section 21 of the regulation, Alberta Transportation grants approval for the subdivision authority to vary the requirements of Section 19 of the regulation. So that takes me to my recommendation, which is approval, subject to the following conditions. Number 1, it is the developer's responsibility to enter into any necessary agreements with SMERD for the supply of water to the proposed subdivision. The developer will be required to provide written evidence that the requirements of SMERD have been satisfied prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. Number 2, the developer is required to ensure that there is no encroachment of the irrigation pivot or end gun into the remnant land. The developer's surveyor will be required to confirm that there are no encroachments prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. Number 3, the developer is required to consolidate the proposed subdivision contained within Northwest 3211 6 west of the 4th with the adjacent agricultural title to the south contained within Southwest 3211 6 west of the 4th to enhance agricultural productivity. The consolidation is to be completed at the time of the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And number 4 is our standard condition. The developer is required to supply copies of any utility right-of-way plans, easements, and/or agreements which are to be registered as a requirement for any affected utilities to the county prior to the subdivision's registration with Alberta Land Titles. And that is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Becky. Sean, would you like to speak to your application at this time?
I'll let you decide, but it seems to be a fairly basic proposal.
And the conditions, you're fine with the conditions presented?
You betcha. Yeah.
Okay. I'll open the floor to discussion. Yeah, you covered everything. That was the only concern I had was the pivot overhang, but that's good.
And the surveyor's report, as it shows now, it shows the end gun not encroaching, so then the condition just protects that.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. To me, it's a perfect subdivision. It makes total sense. So, Michelle?
I'll move it.
Okay, Michelle moves approval of 23CY02 with conditions as presented. All those in favor? Carried. So your subdivision has been approved, subject to meeting conditions which were previously discussed. The county will now mail you a copy of your subdivision approval. You're advised to begin working towards completing the necessary conditions and making arrangements to have the approved subdivided area surveyed if you have not already done so. You have 1 year from the subdivision's approval date to have met all of the approval conditions and to have the survey plan submitted to Alberta Land Titles. If you have any further questions, you may contact the planner after today to discuss them. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you so much for your time.
Sure. There's a request to have a 5-minute recess before we start that long process of extension discovery, discussion, I should say. Okay, thanks. All right, 5-minute recess. Call the meeting back to order. Next up for consideration is development extension. Let me just get this square. Bull Trail Wind Project time extension request, 22/42 through 22/82 and 22/84 through 22/91. Aaron, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Action Land and Environmental submitted development permit applications for 49 towers back in April 2022. They were approved. The project area is located about 3 kilometers south of the hamlet of Irvine and east of Highway 41. The original development permit applications met all AUC and Cypress County land use bylaw requirements. An emergency plan and remediation plan were among the supporting documents submitted with the original application. Extension requests are generally granted in 1-year increments. However, the applicant is requesting a 2-year extension in case the commencement of construction of the project is delayed again. The Land Use Bylaw 22/09 does not explicitly forbid granting approval extensions for periods longer than 1 year. That's how I interpret the bylaw. Granting a 2-year approval extension, of course, would be left to MPC's discretion. Staff support a 2-year extension in this instance since there's no changes to section 12.25, the wind energy facility commercial section of the land use bylaw foreseen over the next 2 years. This additional year would also help to alleviate external factors such as supply line issues, which are out of control of the developer. The developer has stated that the project should be commenced by 2024. Staff recommend granting a 2-year extension subject to the original conditions of approval for this specific project. And the conditions of approval are in your package on page 247, so none of those should change. And as I said, there's 49 applications that need to be extended, and I guess we can, this concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Michelle, okay. So first of all, before we go there, do you have something that we need to discuss before I put it to the applicant? Okay, so I'll go to the applicant right now. Jason, do you have anything to add?
New mics. Just a small minor detail. 2262 actually has a laydown yard with it. Yeah, but whatever, they're the same ones. Yeah, I guess just a little bit of background, just so everyone has some history. Obviously, EDF is fully prepared to proceed with this development. The only part that they're up against right now is the third-party constraints. Those third-party constraints are AltaLink building their infrastructure and moving forward with that. But the biggest constraint right now is provincial government. I'm not sure if everyone's aware or not with the 25% curtailment that's been put in place by the PC government in regards to renewable power generation. So what's having to be done is the AUC and ISO has to determine exactly how that's going to impact these types of projects. So with that unknown, it's causing a lot of issues for development within this area because obviously there's quite a bit to begin with. So when you throw a 25% curtailment on there, how that's going to shake out, that's to be determined. Those are the major reasons why we're looking for the extension for 2 years instead of the typical 6 months to 1 year. However, like Aaron had indicated, with the bylaw changes, it does allow now for the MPC to grant longer term. Obviously, since the bylaw changed, there hasn't been a development permit expire because it's been a recent change. So I guess we're the first ones up. So with fear of setting precedents in regards to 2 years, I think that, or I feel that this would be the one potential opportunity to allow for the 2-year extension, because it is out of the hands of EDF, renewables, in regards to the curtailment and AltaLink's infrastructure upgrade. Both of those are potentially moving forward in 2023, and the full understanding from EDF is to start construction spring 2024, which would not even cause a concern with the 2 years anyways, because we would hopefully start at least roadway construction, approaches, and so on and so forth, and start getting ground ready for turbine construction for the fall of 24. The other huge concern that there is with the way the bylaws are listed, that we can only renew once and then they're expired, and then we have to do a complete new application. So, to be honest with you, there is a financial potential impact with that, being that when you do a renewal, you only have to pay half the fee, and when you do a new one, you have to pay the full fee. So we're talking $60,000 difference from this check that I wrote, $61,000 not being $125,000. So, I'll just put all the eggs in the carton, all the cards on the table, and be honest with everyone, that is part of the discussion and the determination also. Instead of letting this just go 1 year or letting it expire, we're taking a financial risk in regards to writing a $60,000 check and then potentially having to come back and write another $120,000 check again. So I feel with those three factors that should hopefully give enough background in regards to why we're looking for the 2 years compared to the typical 6 months to 1 year again. And I would more than willing to yield some questions if there is any, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Michelle.
Well, I don't think we've ever granted a 2-year extension before, and I'm okay with a 1-year extension. But with the election coming and with all the other things, the rules change so much that I'm not comfortable granting a 2-year. I'd be okay with 1, but not 2.
So this application, it says here that it's to extend the first 1-year approval. Where does it state that it's a 2-year application?
So the original one was approved for 1 year, Mr. Chairman, and now it's up.
Okay,
So we're looking for a 2-year extension instead. Well, again, with the bylaws' recent changes, it now allows for a term of 6 months up to whatever time the MPC wants to put out there. So there hasn't been a 2-year absolutely in the past, but that's also because the recent bylaw now allows there to be that. So I think we need to put that in consideration also. And I think you also got to remember that in the past, there wasn't a lot of 2-year requests, if any, because the fees structure changed with the bylaw change also. So I just, I want to be honest with everyone in regards to what the motivation is here. If the bylaw change didn't happen, which didn't cause the fee structure to change, then we wouldn't be looking for 2 years. I'd be with you, Michelle. I'd be looking for a year, right? But there's ripple effects to everything. So the bylaw change caused for a fee structure change, and it also allowed for a larger extension. So maybe that's the give. That I don't know what the understanding was in the background, but to us, that's what it looks like. It's a nice trade-off. So there is a lot of administration work to do this. Obviously, that's why it's a large amount of money. I mean, Erin's been fantastic to work with, so she makes it easy. But to go through this once a year, our expectation is that we're starting to build next year anyways. We just would like the extra year to ensure that we don't have to look at doing a whole new application and pay in the additional $125,000.
Dan?
Yeah, I can appreciate what you're saying there on the funding, but we also got to watch what we do for changes of everything that's coming through. We've asked and we're fighting as council, we're fighting for some regulation changes and all this stuff. So for us to pigeonhole ourselves into a 2-year deal and then everything we're fighting for on the other side of council comes forward, you guys won't have to curtail to those. And that's one of the reasons why I would agree with Michelle that we can't tie ourselves into that 2-year, because there possibly is going to be changes coming down the road to just reclamation and stuff like that. So I'd have to agree with Michelle. I mean, if it's a money issue, I don't know. I guess that's the price of doing business. That's we all pay.
This 25% curtailment that's coming down from the province, can you explain that?
So the UPC government and through the AESO has announced that we're wanting to restrict or curtailment up to 25% for renewable energy in regards to areas where there's cumulative effect. So southeast corner of Alberta is obviously one of those. So they have to determine exactly how much ability they're going to grant to have connections to the grid for renewable energy, because there's so much coming on board right now. There's a cutoff coming in June, whereas developers, when they're going to approach Fortis to hook onto the grid, or AltaLink, are going to have a no date after that, so that they can determine just how much volume we're looking at, so that we don't get overloaded in one specific area. At the end of the day, the infrastructure can't handle all of the power to be generated in one geographical area, so they have to find some sort of way to restrict that. And that's what the 25% curtailment program is.
So is that program going to be restricting all projects, existing and proposed?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, exactly, absolutely. Current wind farms, solar farms, or also may have to turn back the tap a bit and stop producing as much. It's going to impact everything, yep.
Yeah, that's really hard on the guys that have already spent all the
Yep.
millions of dollars to,
Yep.
and then not be mean to you, but you come along and put in and they got to curtail back too, so.
Well, it's potentially going to change.
Why wouldn't they just say, put a moratorium on applications and because the existing line is full?
The other option is to build new lines, which is what AltaLink's looking to do right now. But then, of course, when we build new lines, there's a cost back to the general public and cost to consumers. So there's a lot of issues with that. To speak on your comments, Dan, about the changes in regards to the county restrictions, I'm sure that whatever changes you guys are planning on looking at would be tied to any current projects, I'm sure. I mean, again, this project has obtained AUC approval, so it's not like if changes happen down the road that we're going to be able to run away from those. We are going to adapt to reclamation changes in Alberta and within the county as they are deemed fit. That this 2-year extension wouldn't change our obligations by any means. It would just basically allow us to have 1 extra year prior to starting construction without these development permits expiring. That's it, right? And I mean, obviously, you're well aware, to ensure that the development permit is entered upon, as construction work needs to be started. So the plan is to start construction in 2024. We just would like a little bit of a grace period until 2025 in case we're unable to start construction on all 49 sites by April 11th, 2024.
Well, if you had a bunch of them already started, then the cost wouldn't be that high. You'd just be on what you don't have started. So again, it goes back to pigeonholing us into that. I understand what you're saying there, if things change, but we all know that if you have a permit, you're not going to change to the new rules. You're going to come in here and say, our permit states this, this is what we're doing. So
we'd be willing to have an additional condition in the permit if that's what you're looking for, Dan, to reflect things that would change. I mean, EDF is willing to adhere to all rules within the county. They're not going to want to be restricted to the rules that were only specific to development permits that were done in 2022, 2021, or 23. We'd be more than willing to adjust the conditions, if so requested, to allow for the ability to ensure that these developments are evergreens in regards to any changes. I mean, they are with the permit with AUC also. It's not like we can run away from changes. So if there is one of these clauses that you would like to have a sentence that would have this as an evergreen type clause, so that if there is restrictions changed, lightened or increased, we'd be willing to entertain that for sure.
A condition to accept all conditions that we put onto it.
Well, I mean, what I'm getting at is,
Well, it's pretty open.
well, if you're concerned that you're going to change the restrictions and that this development permit would mean that we wouldn't have to adhere to those, then absolutely. That's not our plan isn't to do that.
Okay.
We're not trying to get in early so we don't have to adhere to a restriction that potentially is coming down the road.
Yeah, I just don't know what the legal ramifications would be on that kind of a condition. But anyways, Kayleen?
So just so that the MPC as well as Jason is aware that if we intend to change any of the conditions on the original approval, it's going to be subject once again to that 21-day appeal period because we're changing the conditions that we attach to it. So we would have to re-advertise, recirculate landowner letters. There would be another layer on top of just changing the conditions around. So just so that you're aware.
So for clarification, this application is for a time extension, a 2-year time extension. That's what the application is. So if this falls, he has to come back with a 1-year time extension request.
Through the chair, I think you could just change it to a 1 year if you choose not to go with the 2.
Yeah, we can make the motion for 1 year.
Or you could go,
Okay, all right, okay. Just
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chairman, I talked to
you
Aaron.
could do a year and a half also.
The MPC has the ability to go anywhere from 6 months and longer. You can go 10 years if you want.
new.
I don't believe there is a maximum.
Well, if you're 2, the next guy in, it's going to be 3.
I don't believe there's a maximum in the bylaws that I could find.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that doesn't, no.
Oh, sorry, okay, okay. So then you have the ability to go in 6 months. From my understanding with staff was that you have the MPC has the ability to approve up to 6 month increments. Now, understanding up to 2 years. So our application, which needed to come to MPC anyways, to have the discussion, it was put in with the hope that it would be approved for
2 years, not.
2 years, correct, or 4 6-month periods. And so if the MPC wants to talk about that, we can. That's why I'm here.
Okay, well. Michelle?
So you're looking for a time extension on all 49 projects, like you weren't doing any of them next year?
No, absolutely. Like, I mean, like Mr. Hamilton indicated, like if we start, we might get 6 of them done, we might get 12 of them done. The issue we have is that all 49 originally were put in at the same time, so all 49 expire at the same time, right? So at a minimum, we're going to need, well, we're going to need an extension no matter what. They literally expire, I believe, next month.
19th?
On the 19th, yeah, sorry, they expire next week. So we need a time extension no matter what, right? So we're looking for now that I understand the maximum amount so that we have as much planning time as possible to be able to have the ability to start as many of them as possible, right? If we're only granted 6 months, that strategy will change. If we're granted 2 6 months, which is 1 year, obviously that strategy changes. 18 months, 24, our strategy will change. We are restricted with times of year on some locations in regards to when we can start building due to vegetation, due to wildlife, due to sensitivity of species at risk. So 6 months would be tight for sure. I mean, we could live with a year, but again, we're hoping for 2 years, and that's the reasoning why.
As of right now, you don't have a permit for a laydown yard.
So again, that was the correction at the very beginning. It's 22-62, which is the turbine and the laydown yard.
Oh, there.
Down here it's separate, isn't it?
It's under the same one because it's the same piece of property.
Okay, and I see that. Don't we usually have a separate application for a laydown yard?
No, same with turbines. When there's more than one on one quarter, we do one application.
Okay. Okay, it's there in the.
Typically, because you're restricted to have 800 meters between 2 towers, it's very difficult to have 2 towers on 1 quarter unless you're mathematically really good at it. So that's why normally it's just the laydown yard that's attached. Or sometimes laydown yard's not even on the same property. We've left the substation out if anyone cares, because part of the curtailment could dictate where the substation is if a possible movement. So the substation permit, I believe, has expired. Yeah, yeah.
Michelle?
I'll move the approval of a 1-year extension, not a 2.
Any other discussion before we discuss the motion? Okay. All right, Michelle moves for a 1-year time extension. We'll have to go through each one. For 2242, all those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves a one-year time extension. You're going to do all of these? Or do you want to split them up? Okay, Amanda moves approval of a one-year time extension for 22/43. All in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of a one-year time extension for 22/44. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks. Lloyd moves approval of 22/45 for one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves one-year time extension for 22/46. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves a one-year time extension for 22/47. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 22/48 for a one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. What's his face? Lloyd moves approval of 22/49 with all those one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 22/50 with one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves a one-year time extension for 22/51. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 22/52 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 22/53 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 22/54 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves approval of 22/55 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 22/56 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 22/57 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 22/58 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves approval of one-year time extension for 22/59. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of one-year time extension for 22/60. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 22/61 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 22/62 one-year time extension. All those in favor?
62 is the lay down yard.
And lay down yard, yeah.
Any chance I can get any one of them?
Well, we would need a different motion there. Who are we at, Michelle?
Somebody else make the motion.
Not giving that up. Anybody gonna give it up? No.
15 months?
You just want to go back with a partial win, huh? Justify your hourly wage? No soup for you. We need a motion on 2262. Do we need a different motion? We need some motion. Same motion? Okay, Michelle moves a one-year time extension for 2262. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves approval of one-year time extension for 2263. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 2264 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 2265 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 2266 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves approval of 2267 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 2268 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 2269 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 2270 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves approval of one-year time extension for 2271. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 2272 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 2273 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 2274 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 2275. Amanda moves approval of 2275 one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 2276, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 2277, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 2278, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves approval of 2279, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 2280, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 2281, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 22/82, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves approval of 22/84, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 22/85, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 22/86, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 22/87, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Amanda moves approval of 22/88, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Dan moves approval of 2289, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Lloyd moves approval of 22/90, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Michelle moves approval of 22/91, one-year time extension. All those in favor? Carried. Now I'm going to auction off this cup. All right, so your application for extension has been approved. No advertising on extension. So there you have it. Thanks, Jason. So, next meeting, May 9th, is the proposed next meeting. Any discussion?
Well, I'm not going to be here if it's on May 9th. I can make the 10th, but not the 9th.
Well, I would imagine that the information will be put out to all the commission members, and if we don't have a quorum, we will be advised, and we'll have to move it. So far, we haven't set the precedence of moving it for one person's inability to attend. I don't think we want to start that.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully Nigel will be here next time.
we'll miss you, but yeah. But we won't. As long as we have enough
I
votes.
could phone in, but I think that would upset a few people.
Okay, so next meeting is May 9th, unless otherwise advised. Thank you, everyone. I hereby adjourn the meeting.